the heck?
Okay, so earlier this week, I'm 25 days into a
where's this
52
Okay.
project, weekly self-portrait project.
Sure. Okay, now this is making sense. I'm with you.
I am at the let's buy random bullshit phase of taking self-portraits because
For everybody listening, he immediately jumped into this recording just holding a bundle of balloons. Did you animal balloons? What are those called?
Animal balloons, yeah. So this week's idea was to make a tunnel of rainbow pastel balloons.
Okay.
And then wrap that tunnel around the lens.
Yes.
And then I would pose at the end of the tunnel.
Okay.
And light would fly through and be all creamy
Super
and pastel-y.
colorful. Yeah.
Yeah, very rainbowy. Hooray.
You're saying this in a way that I have a feeling this failed miserably. Have you tried it?
I am just rolling in failed balloons all over the office. It's unusable outside of my desk. I'm just surrounded by balloons, and of course I tried it, and of course it did not work.
Okay. You need to take a visit to my place because I've got a ton of random things that I could lend you, and I think you would find
balloons.
Not balloons. I have like weird little, you know those? You remember Spencer's Gifts, the Satanist place at the mall?
Yeah, the poor man's Hot Topic.
Yes. Anyway, growing up there, I was always fascinated by, they had these fiber optic lamps, you know, with like the little hairs of fiber that come out and they're clear but light up at the very tip. So I have one of those. That would be really cool, I think, for
That
like
is,
a long exposure.
If you go to 08 of 52, that is my failed attempt from February.
Okay.
And then we like bought a house and we're moving. So I haven't had an opportunity to unfail that failure.
Okay.
People liked it. People are like, oh, this is really fun and experimental. I'm like, oh, I think it's out of focus trash. Which goes to show sometimes, we're just our own harshest critic. Let me send you the photo so you can be my harshest critic. That would be great.
It's quite interesting how often I'm on the fence about posting. Generally, I do like 10 image carousels now. And quite often, one of those, I'm like, do I like this one photo? I think maybe I prefer a different one? Whatever, I'll just post it. And it's notable how often that tends to be the photo that people are like, oh, that's crazy. I love number 8 or whatever. I'm like, man, I almost didn't even post number 8. What else am I not sharing that people would actually really enjoy?
I no longer have that battle. I used to have that battle, but now I have lowered my expectations to just...
Oh, I see. I'm looking at the photo you just sent me. Yeah, you can do better.
See, yeah, it wasn't good. What I need is I need like you and my partner and maybe like a third person. We need like 3 lights, and I need to be brushed by 3 different people. And I mean, like I understand that this sounds like a little fantasy of mine. I promise it is. But like, so I need help because I couldn't do both and keep myself still and take the part. It was rough.
This is about to be over with. I was very jealous of your morning ice cream, and I was like, I want a snack. I want to have a snack while we're podcasting or just before. And I threw in a bunch of what I'm now realizing are probably the worst possible snack to ever have while podcasting, specifically sunflower seeds. So I have just a bunch in my mouth and I'm
crunching.
I'm almost done. Yeah, but
right in the microphone. It's fine. You're the editor. Oh God, I heard that one. I did not like that. You did that.
And then
for
I have
the
like this
microphone.
black thing in my teeth. There we go. That's the last one. Done.
Thank you.
Sorry
for sharing.
What about the
what other? You have a fog machine. So of course I mentioned the fog machine a couple of episodes ago, and then you between that episode and now have remembered that you have a fog machine.
Oh, I think about it quite often. It's sitting right next to all my external hard drives. It's actually a really fantastic, super portable. It's probably about the size of maybe like This is going to sound strangely accurate. 75% the size of a shoebox. If you wear a size 10, it's about that big. It's very compact, and it's mostly battery. The battery that powers it is very, very heavy. It's one of those really long rectangle batteries, and just has a little reservoir for the like fog machine liquid that you put into those things, and then you just hit a little button on top, and it starts to do its thing. It's really great. It's so portable.
When was the last time you used it?
Definitely in the last year or two. I thought, I needed something really portable so I could bring it to weddings reasonably, but I never have brought it to a wedding because, believe it or not, unless you're in an enclosed room with almost no airflow, you need a ton of fog to really get the effect across. It's hard to manage. Also, can I just mention, it's getting ridiculously out of hand how TV shows now just create an entire fog room for every shot and every scene. I'm just like, what is happening? It's like there's a fire happening right out of frame.
Are you watching this? I don't have this experience. What are you watching? Are you watching a lot of like Riverdale? A lot of CW?
No, just random
shows?
stuff. No. Right now I just started a show called Manifest, which is kind of interesting. I think it's been out for a while.
Is that the corny one about the people that go missing and then reappear? Okay,
5 years later, yeah. It's got some Lost
I know
vibes
nothing about
to it.
this.
I like the show Lost. It's kind of got that feel. This is a warning that there's about to be a spoiler for Lost.
Remember when Lost ended with everyone in heaven randomly? Like just there they are in heaven in a church?
I don't remember the specific ending. I just remember that I actually liked it, and I know nobody else did. I also really liked the ending of Battlestar Galactica, and nobody seemed to like that. I thought it was great.
Oh, listen, I apologize to all of the fans who I just spoiled Lost for. I won't do the same for Battlestar Galactica 20 years later. Yeah.
There is, what is the like social standard of, if you haven't seen it by now, it's on you. That it's spoiled. I don't know.
I don't agree that there is one. I think we should keep all media a secret.
Yeah.
That's my vibe.
That works. So you have a failed portrait. Are you going to post it anyway? Is it only failed in your mind,
or
did
even
you get
take
something?
it?
Oh,
No.
Didn't take it.
Like
okay.
I couldn't even construct the balloons well enough around the lens to do what I wanted to, and so then I tried some other stuff. It didn't work, and then my partner made me a bouquet of balloon flowers as a sorry you failed, and I was like, oh, that's very sweet. Thank you for reminding me of my failure. Yeah, so we're next week is the halfway point. Halfway done with the year, halfway done with the project. Everybody's going to be posting their 388, 387 photos, or 188, sorry. So we're like halfway. It's an exciting
Are there
time.
any constraints to this project? Is it all the same camera and lens? Is that just...
Nope. Just vibing.
So, as long as
I mean, it was originally just going to be my using my Leica Q2, but then I came into available access to a GFX, so I switched.
Oh, I'm now looking at your feed here. I like 25 of 52. That's a really good one.
That's a good one. So I have like 4 or 5 ideas in the back of my brain that are just there for my failure weeks because I know they're coming.
Okay.
And they're going to happen. Or like when I don't have, creative thoughts or whatever, it's fine because I've got one stored back there. So when these balloons failed, I just immediately went down, made myself a cocktail, and took a portrait through the Nick and Nora glass.
Lovely.
So I could get a weird distorted lens. I stole that idea. I was inspired by another member named Danielle, who did an exceptional little set with that. So I have like 4 or 5. Another one is figuring out how to take an underwater portrait in your pool.
Yes, it's ready for you.
That one has a time limit in that like it has to be done before the fall.
Pool closes in September generally, early October.
Yeah, so I've got a summer portrait that, so there's that constraint. I have this, I need to call the parks department. This is
the what?
There's a single bench on our side of the park There are like 3 or 4 benches around the walking trail on the park that I live on. One has a very beautiful old-timey street lamp right behind it. And that was one of my go-tos is I was going to take a long exposure portrait, like wide shot of me in the light with darkness all around, but long exposure. So it'd be like fun darkness, not just dark. But the light bulb went out. So I need to call the parks department to get them to fix it.
There's a 311 app or something like that for those kinds of things. I think that's what I keep.
An app?
Basically,
they made it an app.
Yeah,
that's incredible. I still don't. I've been living in this house for 3 months, and I have yet to call 311 to get our garbage cans because I am a millennial and I'm terrified of the phone. So
yeah. No, I'm pretty sure there's an app because surprisingly, the Maryland Department of Transportation is very active on the Baltimore subreddit and constantly recommends people fill out the 311 something or another for pothole.
Baltimore
awareness.
City 311. This is crazy. This is exciting stuff. It has 2 stars, which is not inspiring confidence.
That's okay. Well, let's see if it'll work for you. I don't think I've only done maybe 3 self-portraits, and I've only ever used those for my About Me. So I actually need to work on one for myself, for my new site, because I need to update my About Me.
Do you only
picture.
use yours? Or do you, because you're friends with photographers. Hello, I'm one of them. We take photos
I've got a ton
you.
of pictures of me. Yeah. No, I like using mine just because it's like it's just it's my About Me page. This is a photo I took of myself. I don't know. It doesn't have to obviously be a self-portrait, but I think they've always come across that way. The one that I have now, I think I might just recreate it because I really love it. It's a great idea. It's a one-way mirror about this big in front of the camera and the lens, shooting into a regular mirror. So it's just like, quarter of my face.
You did that?
It's a quarter of my face shooting through that. And because it's a one-way mirror through the lens, it is hiding the camera, which is a really cool effect. And honestly, if anybody here is listening that has any type of ability, I think maybe we've brought this up once before, but somebody needs to create this product. I've talked about this for years. It's a filter. So imagine like a square panel of glass. It could be circular as well, but just an oversized one-way mirror that actually has a threaded mount to it. So you could screw that in front of your, attach it to your actual lens. And so if you were doing portraits of somebody, they actually just see themselves through the mirror and you shoot through it. And I think it would create a very relaxed and pleasant experience for the person being photographed. Not only would it be more comfortable because they don't have this darkness, all-seeing eye of the giant camera lens, peering into their soul, but they can fix things like in their hair or something like that, and kind of like work an angle in a way that most people are used to these days anyway because of the self-facing selfie camera on their phones. It would sell really well. Not to mention, if it's a portrait, like a headshot type session, most of those photographers shoot through ND filters of some kind anyway. You do lose a few stops of light shooting through a one-way mirror, but that would be totally fine because you could shoot with a really wide aperture with really bright studio lights. So it's a product that should exist, and I've wanted it.
Man, you really lost me with that idea, and then you brought me back as soon as you were like, people are used to fixing their hair with selfie cameras. I was like, holy shit, they are. I was like, no one's going to want to look at themselves. They're going to be self-conscious. They're going to be weird. Oh my God, we do it all the time. Never mind.
Yep. It's funny
let's make
to
it.
think that,
what do you want to call it?
Well, here's the problem is and one of the things, I don't think we've really ever discussed this. This might be an interesting topic. The fact that phone manufacturers, all of them, correct certain, with the smoothing skin a bit, the light a little bit, even without turning those features on, which most of them do provide some kind of toggle for that, especially with the selfie cam. Those phones are giving people a false perception of how they actually look, and I hate that. It will take that photo and it will capture it, which makes sense, but I think something is just deeply wrong with trying to autocorrect people's skin in a way, or brighten their eyes or darken their hair without them knowing. And the problem is because it's essentially lying, right? By doing it without you even knowing it. Now, Apple apparently has dialed it back, way back from, I don't know, there was a clear shift when they like went too far with it, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, this is weird. They dialed it back, but other manufacturers haven't really done that, and it's a total crapshoot depending on what brand of Android or whatever you're using as to how intense the auto cleanup is. But the fact of the matter is, if one manufacturer or like a small group of them are doing this unknowingly to people actually using the product, then everybody kind of has to a little bit, because people will just think it's a crappy camera and not know why they look better in one versus the other. So that's the only problem with the mirror thing. It might be a little too like revealing of, like you said, people's flaws in a way that they might be self-conscious. But honestly, I don't think so. I think I think most people, when they're being photographed, are way more self-conscious imagining a flaw in how they look, or some sensitivity about their nose or something like that, imagining that like the photographer is not picking up on this thing and isn't adjusting it with the right light and angle. So having a mirror, I think, would really and it would be so cheap and easy to make. I'm shocked I haven't seen it. I'm talking about it for 10 years.
So while you had that 90-second spiel, I registered mirrorfilter.com.
Okay, awesome. All right.
So
this is our retirement plan. Here we go.
It was $12.
So it begins.
There it went.
Can you also register photographer pants? Because this is another product I think needs to exist. Really nice pants.
I mean, maybe.
That you could wear to a wedding.
Photographer pants?
Photographer pants are, essentially nice enough black pants that you could wear to a wedding or just comfortably to a shoot. The material, there's a billion different types of the nice flex material that looks good, but it has some give. Yep. So, but here's the trick. Here's the tricky part. I think you could make them look like normal pants, but they need to have built-in knee pads. Just a nice, soft little cushion for your knee. I can't tell you how many times I have to take a knee during a wedding, like a ceremony or something, especially if it's outside, and or in a church with some kind of flooring where it's just like, it's like rocks in my knee, is what it feels like.
And photography pants is for sure the name you want? Are we? I mean, pants. I don't feel bad about that. I mean, like that's cool very name. Direct.
Yeah, photography pants. And then you can have a built-in lens cloth cleaner always attached somewhere in like the pocket that like inverts out, and you can just wipe off your lens.
Your left pocket is your right pocket, because your right pocket holds the majority of people's iPhones, so you won't be mad about that. But your like keys or whatever could like scratch it up and make that die faster. So,
and then a hidden pocket for memory cards. So when you're done with the shoot, put it in there. It's just a little like zipper
in your bottom of your pocket. Zip it in on your left side, because your right side is your cleaner. Yeah.
Yep.
Knee pads. Any other fun things? Reflective hem on the bottom of the pants. So if you roll it up a little, you get a little reflection. Like so when you're doing night shooting or whatever. I love that.
There you go. There's a lot of possibilities here. The only thing with the memory card thing, it would be cool if there was a way to have it hidden, yet have some component of it visually or maybe feel-wise remind you that there's a memory card in there, because I could see a lot of people just throwing them in the wash, and then if you don't have Sony Tough Cards, there goes your memory card.
Well, let's get this sponsored by Sony Tough Cards, and then we're fine. Every pants. Sony Tough Card comes with a 20% off at photographypants.com.
You could collaborate with one of those, maybe like a Peak Design system, where if you use that system, which I don't, you could have like the built-in
little
custom-sized clips. A lot of people like wearing their there's a system called Spider Holster that you put on your belt, and it clips and holds your entire camera body. I don't know if you've ever used that, but it's almost like a
No, man, I retired before we got
all that stuff. Yeah,
all cool Wild West stuff.
I have not found anything that works in that realm. I still just use the regular camera straps, but with the photographer pants, man,
we might have to make our own. Well, okay, so here's the problem. Do I buy photography pants too? It costs $12. It's 12 bones. I can buy this. For a year, yeah. Well, I have a rule for domains. When I buy a domain, I have to use it within the first year, or I let it go.
I have a feeling we are not going to be manufacturing pants within the year, but maybe that filter.
Well, okay, but if we don't buy this by Tuesday, by next
Somebody
Tuesday,
else is going to.
Someone's going to like, oh
is,
man, this.
The name though. So the problem I've always had with like Google SEO and all kinds of stuff is, okay, is it photographer pants or photography pants? Like what is going to be the go-to assumption that most people choose? And it doesn't actually really matter because you kind of have to buy both because it's worth scooping up the the people that are mistakenly typing in. And then like, okay, photo pants, that would also be a possibility. So, I hate the photographers. Like, what do people most often search for in Google? Google gives you some research feedback now, but
what we would actually do, because photography pants isn't a super fun name, is we would come up with like a film-based name of like, oh, this is the stopper or developer
Portra
or
400
whatever.
Pants. Yeah, right. Okay.
Right. So like come up with whatever.
Developer.
Yeah. So name the pants and then use photographypants.com as the thing. And then the tagline is pants for photographers.
Okay.
And then you would have your like main 3 cuts or whatever, because you got to have pants that are like slim fit, regular fit, and loose fit. So you have your 3 fits and then all black. And then you do limited edition releases for colors that are like very near brands. So like, I don't know why Fuji feels green to me. Fuji's a green film because of all of the
boxes. The boxes.
Yeah, the boxes.
Yeah, the film.
So like a nice like Kelly green or something would be, the Fuji pants.
Cool.
The Leica red would be, red pants.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah, see, so...
Or just the button could be red, because that's a Leica thing. It's to just make the button red.
Oh my God. Yeah, and then charge like an extra $900 for them. Hell yeah!
Yeah.
Okay, but I don't know how to manufacture pants. I feel like we can... I feel like we could figure out via Alibaba or
that's what
whatever.
I was going to suggest, yeah.
How to do a one-way mirror filter.
I kind of went through this with certain things, like the Ring of Fire. Like I was trying to just sell it at some point, and I never actually listed it because I bought like all the stuff that I needed, and I realized like this is just going to end up with me sitting on the floor of a room, cutting a bunch of pipes to size, having to put them in a mailer, like do all this manual labor for like, I don't know, $10, $15 a pipe. Like I can't, this is not worth my time and effort. So the manufacturing side, as long as our home doesn't turn into inventory storage that where we manually have to like start doing stuff. And I also went through this with bands and like buying t-shirts to sell. It's like, oh God, you've suddenly realized your entire dorm room ends up just being an inventory storage t-shirts. Space. Yeah. And then stuff never moves fast enough and it's just, but, we can figure it out. If anybody out there listening
what's the standard size? So there's, for filters, there's like, your graduated size of threaded, right? So like 77 millimeters, 82 millimeters, and then down, right? It goes down to like 43 or something.
Yes.
There's
67 here.
The Q2 is
they have
49.
Step filters. They have step filter adapters. So as long as you hit like the main, I think you would want to trend larger, and then you can always step down. You wouldn't want something too small.
Right, but even anything smaller than like a 79 isn't going to be big enough that the person can actually see themselves. It would be like a little eye makeup.
Oh, that's the thing. I think it would actually have to be oversized. Like not the size of the filter itself, but an oversized either circle or square. That's probably 8 inches, like literally like a mirror, which would look funny as being attached to the front of your camera. But I think it would be fine.
Well, there's the 4x5 filters or whatever the size, like 4x5.6. There we go. Don't know why I remember that.
One-way mirror?
0.65. No, of filters that are for traditional like scene cameras and film cameras that like slot in front of the video lens.
Okay.
So like that would be the easiest size to start with of, direct. Are we accidentally becoming a filter company right now?
Yeah, we are. It's funny. They actually call them, it's so odd, two-way mirrors on Amazon everywhere I search for this. I always thought of it as a one-way mirror. Wait.
All mirrors are one-way mirrors.
Yeah, you're right. So it is a two-way mirror. But that's weird because you only see, whatever. This, I think, is also the kind of product that even if it didn't work all that well, it's the kind of thing that marketing wise and like seeing it in action through some behind the scenes video or photos or something like that would it would click in people's minds enough that they would just buy it to try it, and I doubt it would be so expensive that most people wouldn't throw like $50-$60 at it or something like that just to see if it works for them. There's so many photography products like that, unfortunately. I would hope that it actually does work. Maybe I should like build a little prototype with some super glue and some filters, because I still have my one-way mirror somewhere. But it's but we have to do this entire thing before the entire headshot industry gets completely obliterated by just renders of people looking better than they actually would in a photo.
That's not going to happen.
Okay.
That's not going to happen.
Did I tell you I spent $40? I took a bunch of selfies and spent $40 on this like AI headshot.
Yeah, the AI thing. You didn't tell me you did it, but I knew you did before you told me. I've met you. You look like a man who would spend $40 on. Well,
everyone
AI
was
cartoons.
in a local. I'm not that active on Facebook. For something about this conversation caught my attention. It was just some random London-based photography group, and a lot of the people in that group are headshot photographers on weekdays and on the side, aside from weddings, and they were freaking out. They were like, "Oh my God, $40! We can't compete with that." I was like, "Okay, guys, I'm gonna try it," and then I shared the results, and they were like, "All right, yeah, we're not worried for now."
Yeah, exactly. We're not worried. Okay, so I found what appears to be, is this two-way or is this one-way? High transparency, two-way mirror. Okay, if we get more than 1,000, it is only 68 cents per thing.
Yeah, that sounds
These are
right.
not, we would have to cut them, we'd have to order them to size.
Okay.
So they would have to cut them for us, but easy breezy. We're done. You know what's great? We could make this a branded glass product by slapping the glass logo in the corner. Glass is glass.
It's the perfect
for glass.
name. Wow. Glass.
Woo! This is exciting. Okay, one on-time dispatch guarantee. Great. So that's going to be a tab that lives open for the rest of my life. That's exciting.
I'm glad you liked my idea. I'm sorry that it took you a second to be convinced, but it is a good idea. I'm going to super glue together a little prototype, because I have actually literally, I think next week, like 100 headshots that I'm doing with a friend of mine. I'm mostly helping him.
What?
Actually, yeah, we're doing it's a conference that also wants to provide headshots for anybody who's attending. They're just covering the cost. So we're setting up 2 identical backdrops against green screens because they need that for something apparently. And then, we're just going to be rolling through some headshots of, 100 people or something like that. So that's the perfect scenario for me to see if this thing could actually work.
Well. I love this. I love to test.
And I think the biggest drawback would be if you're operating from a certain angle that works for the photo, but doesn't allow the person to see themselves in the moment, that could be weird.
Or does and gives unflattering angles. This is only used as a reference tool. This is not for,
Right. You would have to create some sort of workflow of explanation in terms of, what you see in the mirror isn't what the photo is. Like, this is just so you can check it. And I think a lot of people, like that first moment where when you pull your camera up and you and they see it, I think they would actually, that would also generate a pretty genuine smile if you started shooting right away. that was something I had to learn early on, was to not over explain what my idea or what I was going for ahead of time, maybe do it after. But if you're trying something where, you know, it requires me to like sit on the ground or do something a little weird, just do it, because most people will react to that in a genuine way, like being presented with a giant mirror instead of a camera lens. They would just kind of laugh and smile, and you want that very first few seconds of glee that people genuinely have if you crack a joke or something like that. You got to be ready for it, though. It kills me how often I miss that. I crack a joke, and for whatever reason, I just wasn't thinking, and my camera's down, and I'm not photographing their actual reaction in a way that.
Well, have you considered being better at your job?
Yeah,
I think that's the. You don't crack? Do you crack jokes? You don't strike me as a joke cracker.
It's all completely based on them, and like I kind of poke fun at people in a really, I think, sweet way, but it's all related to what we're talking about in the moment. I don't have like a Rolodex of jokes that I rotate.
Should Elise and I hire you for a session?
Yeah, I would love that.
Can we like sneak in some lav mics on all of us and do a podcast while we do the session as a bonus episode? Just
interesting.
No, I'm gonna say way too much bullshit.
That would work.
Yeah, I can't actually.
Yeah,
my
podcast, I don't know.
Real life persona can never exist on the internet. That'd be terrifying. You know.
Yeah. The thing is, some of that plays out in my longer form deconstruction videos on Patreon, where it's like a 15-minute just section of shooting portraits with people. You kind of get a sense of the banter I kind of get going with people. But I purposely try not to use anything I know is absolutely going to make them laugh, because
you don't want to be funny. You don't want to be hilarious on purpose.
I'm not a comedian. The delivery is eventually going to get cringy and forced. That's what I always want to avoid, is people thinking, oh, we see the routine that he's going through now. Like, I genuinely want it to be them laughing because something funny came up in our conversation, or something funny happened in the actual context of where we are, not because I told them to drunk walk or something like that. Yeah, there's
is that
that's a thing. Yeah.
Oh,
right, guys,
my God.
hold hands. Okay, this is called the drunk walk. We all know what this is. Let's do it.
Oh my God, that's why they do the because you get the weird, and God, make your photos more cinematic. Here are my 7 reels.
Yeah,
like and
but
subscribe.
The temptation is always there, especially, thankfully, I'm pretty good at not remembering things I don't care about, but some things do stick in my head, and I'm like,
I mean, come on.
I know I could make them laugh.
Let's be real. You don't remember things you care about, too. Like, come on.
Okay, that's fair. There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on up there. You can't organize all of it. I get it.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
One thing that would be interesting, though, is to use this prototype if we build a two-way mirror filter thing for your self-portrait project. It might make things exponentially easier for you, to be honest.
Well, yeah. So now we've got up to number 6. Well, I mean, like, this would make my life easier, but it's also a 6th photo for me to take of the two-way mirror through the camera with the mirror behind me. Mirrors all the way down. So that's exciting, because I used one of my go-to, I know I have this ideas. I did that a lot when I was shooting a 365 project, right? Like, I spent a lot of time walking around my neighborhood in Portland, and I was like, I know where there are like 10 photos around here that I haven't taken or that I haven't posted, right? Like, I'll take a photo. I do this now whenever I'm taking like a street photo walk around neighborhood in Baltimore. I'll like take a photo and be like, I don't like this, I don't like this light or whatever. I slipped focus, or I didn't like the busyness in the background, or cars in the frame, or whatever. I'll just come back to it. And so I'll just revisit the same spots over and over until I get the actual photo I want, which is a thing that I learned from Ansel Adams, that beautiful man. He used to do that with,
I was just looking at a book I have of his. Yeah.
Yeah, so he'd like write down, be like, oh, I'm here in Yosemite on September 7th at 9 a.m. I hate this light. Come back 3 days earlier next year. Right? Like, that's not That's not me. I'm not doing it at that level.
Something interesting he did from a marketing perspective, and I tried it because I was like, oh, this is genius. This is definitely going to work. It didn't work for me, but it barely worked for him. They would do a run of prints and commit to destroying the negatives to truly make them. And I don't know, he probably didn't invent that. Maybe that's just the thing that has always existed. But
NFT Bros tried that this time.
Yeah, right.
Well, they'll destroy the raw file like that.
Yeah, right. The digital realm just doesn't translate the same, right? It doesn't feel like that adds. I thought it would add some value, and I did destroy like the original raw file from something, but it's like, yeah, but I still have the digital final edit, so this is silly.
That I emailed to you that's now saved in my thing, now saved in your thing. You're gonna like, it's the joy of digital and the joy of the internet is
I guess
always,
you could make a run of prints and then delete all the digital files entirely, but then how do you promote it?
Right. Yeah. Like my dying, my flag in the I will die on this hill forever. The joys of the internet and digital stuff is the abundance. And anytime we try to do something opposite of that, it doesn't work for me. Right. Like I adore film, and that works for film, and that idea works for film. But like, digital and the internet is about abundance, and like we have access to so many things. And like, remember that terrible ad or getting yelled at that played at the beginning of like all the DVDs, like you wouldn't download a car. Like I absolutely would download a car, right? Like you wouldn't steal a purse, you wouldn't download, or you wouldn't steal a car. Downloading, don't
record this video you're about to watch. Yeah.
And like, if I could, walking down the street, just take a photo of like the car I want, like, oh, there goes Hyundai Ioniq 5. You can tell I'm car shopping. And like took a photo of it, specific. And then it was mine and continued to exist for that owner, I would absolutely do that. I would steal so many cars. If I could be like Bumblebee, the Transformers, that's probably a little niche of a reference, but he copies cars.
Well, this is actually sort of playing out in a weird way that it still hasn't really caught on mainstream, but it's better than it ever has been in terms of being able to 3D print certain products at home. I have a 3D printer and went through, I continue to go through phases of just like taking a deep dive in things whatever, I can't remember the name of the main URL, but there's just not open source, but I forget what they call them. But you can just download someone's plans usually for free. Sometimes they do charge, but and then they recommend a certain material type and thickness to set your 3D printer to, and then boom, you have an iPhone case. Or
wait a second, or we have a frame that holds a two-way mirror.
Sure, could do that.
See, this is important testing. Ooh, I'm excited to have a
3D printing takes forever, though. My gosh, it is it's hours and hours. It's like 20 hours to print.
Just like magically making objects appear out of nothing. How dare it take so long?
It's painful. Well, the problem is you don't know until it's done whether it's the size of it. This is all like an engineering problem now. So like if you have a surface area that's too large, it will bend and flex in a way that you need to up the thickness of your thread. I forgot what they call it. It's just plastic, but they have variety of thicknesses. And so depending on the actual size, you can start scaled small and then like 200% increase the size. And you don't know until it's finally done whether you made all the right choices. And oftentimes you haven't. So you burn 20 hours waiting for something that, it's way too large and it flexes. Now I have to wait again. And then there's a new problem. So it actually is quite tedious, very fun and interesting.
I'm sorry. I just got lost in the complaints about the magic happening taking time. Like magic
I will
can
say
take time,
one of the best things, if anybody owns a 3D printer out there already, toothpaste screw wedge thing. It's I don't know how to describe it, but
oh my god,
it works amazingly well.
It's a cone.
You take the end
that you stick it in and then twist it up, and then it.
Yeah, it squeezes all the toothpaste out of the rest of the tube, and it's got like a little handle, and you just pull it through, and it's one of the best things I've ever 3D printed. Along with a couple of I used to shoot through another really high quality piece of glass. I had ordered from an optics company in the UK. They were like $100 each. So I really didn't want to break these. They were just, I don't know, 6-inch squares, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
And carrying them around in a bag or on a flight or something, they would definitely break. So I used them to shoot through and create a triple exposure to get the cyan, magenta, yellow effect of people in a photo, because you can actually do that in camera, but you need to shoot through a red, green, and blue, essentially glass. And they have to be the right hue of those colors matched. So anyway, that's why one reason they're so expensive, and they need to be high quality.
I have ended up on PrismLensesFX.com again. That website that sells
is the company that
$45 mountable prism.
They did not exist when I was prisming originally.
But they have a ton of filters.
People said, that's what I'm worried about. Somebody from that company or somebody listening to this that knows somebody from that company is just going to say, hey, do this with the mirror.
I mean,
and then
I
boom,
would love
they'll
that.
roll it out in a day.
That would be great for us. We have prior art right here, right now. But even then it exists. We don't have to spend money on it.
What were we talking about before the
3D printing?
Okay, so these filters are really cool, really high quality, but they crack. They're just pieces of glass. So I 3D printed a nice little case for them. That's the only other thing I've ever successfully 3D printed that wasn't like a little knick-knack, because they have a lot of like little artistic, like you can 3D print an elephant or an otter or something.
Or a Korok. It's cute. From Zelda. Your retirement plan. I can't believe you're not playing the Zelda, man. It's okay.
I'll get on it when I'm 70.
When you're retired. You're not retiring at 70. Come on.
Okay.
We should, in episode like 500, we should talk about your retirement plan. We need to be like far.
That's a good topic. I think a lot of people would find that helpful, actually. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we got to get closer to the date. You know, we got to. 500 is probably. That's actually you're past retirement at 500, because we're doing like, even if we do like 50
episode
a year,
week?
that's still 10 years.
I have to refer back to, I bought the My Life in Weeks poster, and I'm just filling in the squares 1 week at a time. And they have the general estimate for me, somebody of my age and ethnicity, to die at 88. I'm like, all right, it's optimistic, but
that is
still got a lot of weeks to go. Yeah.
It feels,
If I'm mentally still there and I can just chill in a assisted living facility playing video games
with your Apple Vision Pro
that I never played, in my 30s and 40s,
you're not going to have the finger dexterity for.
Yeah, that's true.
I worry.
We don't know
our fingers now as
all the older people now still aren't the generation that grew up with video games, so we don't know.
That's true.
It's going to be interesting to see.
Listen.
Maybe a lifetime of playing video games and using keyboards and things like that. If you don't get an injury or what's it called, RSI, repetitive something. If you don't have nerve pain or arthritis, then maybe that is actually great exercise for like long-term gaming into your old age. I don't know.
I dream of playing like Mario Kart 64 in an assisted living facility one day. If I make it to that, I will consider myself lucky.
So this actually is an interesting segue into a thought I had that made me a little uncomfortable about the Apple Vision Pro. The avatar feature, where you have it, you hold out in front of you and it scans your face and then makes you a digitized avatar. It's going to be weird if people never update their avatar. Every 5,
spoken like
10,
someone
10
who
years.
is 10 years younger in his profile pictures everywhere.
It's a weird, no, not all of them. The one that's on my Instagram is just from like maybe 3 years ago in London. Anywho, it's, going to be weird if people are actually in a FaceTime call with your avatar and you're
from
still
forever
like
ago.
30. Yeah. And,
I'm going to get a really good haircut and a beard trim before I let Apple make a scan of my face. And then I'll just be hot forever. That's my dream.
Well, that's the thing. They're, of course, going to tweak kind of what we were talking about earlier, probably without you knowing. They want a bit of an uncanny valley vibe so that you like the way you look, because most people don't like the way they actually really truly look. They can play with that and push the limits of how smooth your skin is when it's,
you know how long it has taken me to be like, this guy's hot now? A while, a lifetime, if you will.
Okay.
And so now it's like, Apple, you
wonderful.
better not fuck up my face. I'm beautiful. I'm beautiful.
I love that. That's actually really nice to hear. I'm
Well,
glad.
I mean, come on. It's a product of taking 50 self-portraits within the last like 9 months or whatever.
Interesting. Have you gotten to the point of really working on your like micro expressions? I don't know what they actually call them, but the shape of your mouth and all that, or do you just kind of keep it
so like
natural?
It's the first batch when my partner had COVID in October of last year. She was gone visiting her folks. Her folks weren't carefully masking while doing very small indoor. The indoors were small, the events were big. And so then she rolled up and they all had COVID together. It was a very sad family vacation. But she tested negative when she was flying before she flew in, but then she like landed and was like, I feel bad. And I was like, cool, you're sleeping in the back. Bye. And then she tested positive the next morning. And so while she was gone for like those 4 or 5 days, I was just taking a self-portrait because I was alone and bored. And like we had just gotten Cricket, our second dog, like 4 days before she left. And so I was just, dealing with weird dog dynamics in the house and just like, I just need to do something creative. And so I was taking a couple of self-portraits, and then she came back and I was like, hooray, no more self-portraits, all done. And then the next morning she tested positive for COVID, and I was like, okay, cool. I guess I'm still home alone, right? Like she is sequestered in a room. We're not hanging out.
Right.
And so I kept taking self-portraits, and that ended up being like 20, I think, through the vacation and her 2021, something like that. And that was really fun. I've really adored photographers who take self-portraits. One of my favorite working photographers today, her name is Megan McIsaac. And she's just exceptional. She is so good at self-portraits. I found her on Flickr, in like 2000, forever ago, whatever. I don't know, like early Flickr, and then followed her to Tumblr and Instagram, and I think she has some photos on Glass. She's exceptional. I adore her work, and I've always been like a big fan of it, but I'm like, I could never
What's her
do
name
that.
again?
Megan McIsaac. She's based out of LA. I had always wanted to do that, but I was like, it's not for me. It's not my style. It's not how, it's not the type of photos I take. It's not the type of thing that I do.
Right.
And then I was like, well, or I could just take some photos anyway, because like, what the hell, man? I used self-portraits to learn when I was shooting at the studio that I was helping run, right? Like we would do self-portrait sessions and like sessions of each other to explore new lenses, new equipment, new lighting, whatever, all sorts of different stuff. And that was always really fun. But then I just never picked it back up now that I've transitioned to a hobbyist. And so I just decided to randomly, because of, being bored while home alone, and it was really fun. And then I didn't take any more after she got better for like a couple of weeks. And I was like, oh, I actually kind of missed that. It's new year. I need a project. Let's do something. I was really jealous of everyone doing 365 projects, which was like, I did not expect January 1st to be such a fun day on Glass, but like, dozens of people tagged me in their posts of like, hey, we're doing a 365. And I was like, oh, I love you. And then I got really jealous.
Nice.
And so I took I was like, I can't do, like, at that point I knew I was coming to Baltimore, probably buying a house, probably moving in a couple of months, I was like, I cannot do a daily photo. I will die.
Yeah.
And like,
it's a lot of work.
So much work.
Especially if it's a self-portrait, my God.
Yeah. Lauren Randolph, photo Photo Lauren on Instagram. She's on Glass as well. Okay. She did a 365 self-portrait project in 2009, and it blew my mind. Like, I don't know how you do, and like hers were creative. There were cool. Like I have the book of the selected images that she made. She's incredible. Anyway, so there were like all these people, and I was like, I'm gonna do that, and so now I'm doing it.
That's extra wonderful because you don't see a lot of males doing that. It's almost always. I was trying to think like, who do I know? There's a good friend of mine, Britta. She does wonderful self-portrait work. I don't think she's on Glass, but she's definitely on Instagram.
Well, send her a text.
Britta Bug.
God damn.
Oh, I should get her on Glass. I don't know how much she shoots now, actually, but yeah, there's just so many. Maybe it's the. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, like,
so how long did it take? So was it by the end of those 20, you were like, oh, I'm comfortable with how I photograph now. I know what I. Or was it longer than that?
I mean, like there have been some rough ones, or where like I haven't been feeling it week over week, right? Where like I do Sunday to Sunday. Or Sunday to Saturday, that's my week. So that's the week that I have. So Sunday is the first day that I can take a portrait for that week. It was just how the first of the year worked out, and I wanted to get it in. So there have been times when I've had a really long week or a really hard week at Glass, or like work is hard, life is hard, existence is hard. Like I don't know, man. I didn't ask to be born. And so Fair. Sometimes I will get to like Saturday. The worst it's ever gotten, anyone who's done a photo project understands this feeling, but the worst it's ever gotten is like Saturday at like 10:30 p.m. walking the dogs, getting ready to go to bed and realizing, oh shit, I haven't taken a portrait and I have like 90 minutes to take it. I'm not wild about those days, but so that there's a lot of mood that plays into it, right? So the mood that I have about the photo, the idea that I have, that, and so there have been a couple of times when I have done a Saturday portrait and then a Sunday portrait, so I can like for sure have a break, right? Of like, nice. I have 10 days off. I'm gassed. I just need to get this done. And I do one of the ideas that I've already had. Some of the most fun ones that I've had are the ones where it's like, oh, I have no time. I need to do this now. I was going to
ask if that constraint would actually be beneficial. Yeah, because you kind of have to. I work really well in that kind of under pressure situation, so that would make sense. I think a lot of people do. To be honest,
pressure's great. I love deadlines. I need that little extra push of like, because I know once I'm rolling in a thing, I will adore it. Like I'm doing this because I love photography, and this is a portion of photography I wanted to invest in and get a lot better at. I don't think the episode about it got released. No, it definitely didn't. But like, my spoiler of I have long COVID. So like it's a mild case, a very mild case, in that like I'm sitting upright and able to talk and walk and like go up and down the stairs. I have a few friends who have like terrible cases that are like in bed for 15 to 20 hours a day.
Yeah. Oof. But you used to run more, and
right. I used to run marathons and like do bouldering, and now I'm like, I can take the dogs for a walk 3 times a day, right? And like that's a success story, is that like I'm walking over a mile every day. And so like my body is very different than it was, and I feel very different in my body, and so this was very much a like project of acceptance and like figuring out and understanding my body and like becoming acquainted with it better, of like, okay, I'm going to like just stare at me a lot this year. And that's been really, really nice. And so like the more I have accepted my, diagnosis and minor disability, and the more that I have like focused on building out the life that I can have now, that has then also made this self-portrait project significantly more enjoyable. Because I'm like, oh, damn.
I love that. Yeah. Wow. That's great. This is a very optimistic win-win type of project, it seems like, for you. And I'm very, very curious to see.
Well, I mean, this is currently the positive, because I nailed it yesterday with a failure after a failure, right? And I had my morning ice cream.
You've had your morning ice cream. I'm curious to see by the end, or maybe even years later, if there's anything you realize about yourself or the project, looking back.
One of the, like, not to continue beating all the things that this project means, but like one of the things that I've spent a lot of time in therapy over the last decade working on, right? Like being raised religious in a very right-wing state, while queer was like a terrible thing. And it put a lot of like coping mechanisms and survival mechanisms that are, like I long time thought that they were my personality, but they were actually just like me protecting myself. And so it's like, I don't know, like learning who I am and how I actually want to exist in the world is kind of like, it's all of our life's work. But mine was personally pretty stunted for the first few decades, for the first two of those. And so, I've spent the last decade in therapy trying to like figure out who I am and what I want. And over the last like 3 or 4 locations we've lived in, right? Like after leaving Portland and going to Montana and then moving to Amsterdam and then moving to Mexico and now moving to Baltimore, each time we've moved, it's been like kind of an opportunity to be like, okay, these are the things I'm working on right now. And these are the things I'm trying, like I'm trying to be this version of me, and I'm trying to improve, kindness or earnestness or whatever, right? All these traits. And like Baltimore and Oaxaca, the last ones, are the ones where it's been the most like, okay, no, I know, right? Like I feel comfortable in at least knowing that this portion of me exists. And I'm going to like lean into that to see what other parts of that lights up. And, like self-portrait and expressing myself creatively via photography, via my actual body has been a weird window into that of like, nope, this is me, right? Like there have been a couple of weeks where, like anyone who's met me knows that like I'm just a weirdo stoner kid. Right. But on Glass,
that is not how I would describe you, I don't think, but
how would you? Right. So like, I don't know. Like weird, just like a fun, nice guy who just, likes drugs.
Excellent.
and
cooking.
Yeah. Likes cooking and likes, like cooking and drugs are my love language, right? Like if you give me a joint and like a plate of nachos that you have spent time on, I will love you forever. But I don't talk like that version of me never comes out on Glass because it's also my job in a professional setting and a thing that exists. And but hey, I can post a smoky self-portrait and let people make up their, right. So they're like, I'm not straight. I say via all my rainbow clothing and existence and whatever. But like the ways that comes out on a platform, especially where I'm in charge, is like pretty different, right? Like it comes out in like having a code of conduct or us having blocking and reporting as a launch feature, that sort of thing. But it also can get lost in like, well, professional first, queer second. And it's like, that's not actually how I want that to exist, but it is just the reality of like living and working a self-portrait project where I can, like be surrounded in pink and blue bubbles or whatever during Pride, or maybe this next week a rainbow of balloons. Who can say, right? Like that. It's just
I'm excited to see if you manage to pull that off. It's gonna be interesting.
I have. So I bought 280 balloons. Wow. I've blown up like 80 of them. I don't know how many I need to blow up to like.
Probably not.
I probably don't need 80. I'm probably done. I'm just doing it wrong.
If you can't get the tunnel vision sort of right, you could just do a completely overhead shot somehow. You'd have to mount your camera like down on the floor and you just being surrounded in some composition.
The Spike Jones, the Spike Jones. Original HomePod commercial with FK Twigs the marvelous singer and dancer from the UK.
I don't know what you're saying.
You haven't seen this? Okay, great. I'm gonna link it in the show notes, and that's how we're gonna end. Okay. That's it. Boop, and we're done. We've hit a wall, but it's you will understand. There's a lot of strings and a lot of colors. We're gonna.
Okay.
We're gonna. Hey, I appreciate you, Sam.
You
appreciate me. We're gonna stay on the
idea?
call after and watch this together. It's gonna be great.
Okay, I'm excited. All right, appreciate you.
Anyway,
I got a train to catch.
Oh God.